If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's like the easiest way to make a podcast ever. Okay, let me explain. First of all, it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will even distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you find podcasts. And you can make money, and there's no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in like one place. Okay, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started right now. Anchor.fm and get started right now and start your own podcast just like me. It's so easy. You're listening to Out of the Box with Rosie Tran. If you enjoy us, please go on iTunes and Stitcher and subscribe. And as always, outoftheboxpodcast.com and click donate. I'm here today with Everett Stern, HSBC Whistleblower. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You've been featured in Rolling Stone and a bunch of other awesome publications about your experience with HSBC. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about what happened? Some people don't know the whole story.
Yeah, sure. So I started at HSBC October 2010. There was a cease and desist order on the bank due to some illegal activities they were participating in.
What type of illegal activities?
Anti-terrorist, counter-terrorist activity, anti-money laundering, and the government basically told HSBC that they have 1 year to clean up their act. So I was brought in as part of the cleanup crew.
So were you working for HSBC or were you working for the government?
I was working for HSBC.
Okay.
So when I started in October 2010, I immediately saw that there was criminal manipulation of the wire filter and that they were allowing terrorist financing to occur, and they were facilitating it. So I started passing information to the CIA 3 weeks in. In November of 2010, that's when I first emailed the CIA.
Now, were you part of the compliance team, or what was your actual role in the cleanup?
Yeah, my job was a anti-money laundering compliance officer. And I was a specialist for Middle Eastern transactions.
And you just saw that major corruption was going on, and you had to stop it.
Yeah, it was a very blatant, apparent thing. I mean, what HSBC did to really defraud the United States government was that, when I started in October 2010, there were maybe 15 compliance officers. So what they did was to show they had this huge anti-money laundering compliance program. They sold off their credit card division to Capital One, fired a whole bunch of debt collectors. I mean, hundreds of these people, people calling you at night. And then they rehired them as anti-money laundering compliance officers and had them approving transactions, which was crazy. I mean, these people had no education to do that.
So do you think that they purposely did that so that they could continue doing the illegal activity?
Oh, there's no question. Yeah, absolutely. And I told that to Congresswoman Maxine Waters on Capitol Hill about a month ago, that this was a system and an infrastructure that was put in place to defraud the United States and to sponsor terrorism.
So there's absolutely no way that the higher-ups had no clue what was going on.
No, they knew exactly what was going on because they're the ones who...
They were actually implementing it.
Correct. Now, not only that, but in the actual wire filter, so OFAC basically lists all the companies and entities and people we can't do business with. And that includes, for instance, in the example that I gave to Reuters and Rolling Stone, and to the CIA was Kariba supermarkets that were operating out of Gambia in Africa. And Kariba supermarkets were owned by Tajiko, who were owned by the Tajain brothers, which are financiers of Hezbollah. So basically, to make a long story short, these so-called supermarkets were acting as a front for Hezbollah for terrorist financing. And so, for instance, the word Kariba or Tajco, which is the company that owned Kariba, in the wire filter it would be spelled Tajco. But what would happen is HSBC people would put in TAJ.co. So it wouldn't match with the wire filter, and the payments would go through. I mean, and the FBI later called that stripping the payments, but that was just blatant criminal activity, and the higher-ups knew that it was going on.
So what do you think was their motivation for supporting this terrorist activity other than just money? I mean, do you think it was just pure greed?
I mean, I think it was pure greed, but there could be political motivations. There could be a lot of other motivations. I really don't know. I don't know as to their intent, or I can't really comment on what their intention was. I just know what I saw and what they did. And what's shocking about the whole thing is that they admitted to every single thing that I've said. I'm just saying it's still going on, but they literally admitted to treason and got away with it.
Now, you seem like a pretty young guy. Were you scared? I mean, going up against a giant corporation like this, a giant banking, mogul?
Yeah, it was a very scary experience. I mean, I was right out of business school.
How old were you at the time?
25.
That's really young.
Yeah, in college and in grad school, I was a candidate for the clandestine service, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to join the CIA and as a field operations officer, and I was rejected from that program. And it was interesting how I joined as an anti-money laundering compliance officer, and I got my chance to be a spy and do my thing, and I spied on HSBC for over a year. But yeah, it was a very scary experience.
Was there any protocol that you had to take that was like extra safety? Were you getting any death threats? Or, I mean, that's like a pretty big deal. These people are doing business with terrorists in a very elaborate and sounds like planned out way. And seems like you're just a little guy straight out of college. Was there anything, any specific protocol that you had to take to protect yourself?
Yeah, there was a protocol that I should have taken. So right before
should have.
Yeah, right before the Reuters article came out, you see, let me just backtrack for a second. So what happened was that HSBC hired a former FBI counterintelligence agent to run the department, and this guy knew the ins and outs, and that's how he knew how to defraud the government. So I didn't go to the FBI initially because I thought the FBI was compromised. That's why I went to the CIA. I went to my contact there. So later on, then I went to the FBI. But before the Reuters article came out, the FBI made very clear to me, do not put your photo in the paper, do not put your name, and you could really eliminate yourself from witness protection. And I went against their advice, and I put my photo and my name, and it wasn't for any type of celebrity or fame or anything like that. It was because what I was saying was very serious, and if it was anonymous, it wouldn't hold the same weight, and it was more of like a self-sacrificial thing. But yeah, but to answer,
what newspaper did you release your information to?
Initially it was Reuters.
Okay.
And they were the ones that first broke the story before the Senate hearings last year. But yeah, it was a scary experience, and I kind of went into it with the intention that I could, possibly get killed, or, I mean, it's still ongoing. I mean, I was on Capitol Hill about a month ago, and I do get death threats. I mean, this is an ongoing.
So you have received death threats?
Yes.
So what are the people saying? They're just saying you need to stop what you're doing. Is it like a muffled voice? Because this is interesting. A lot of people hear these types of stories and they think it's, movie, like Hollywood stuff or fake stuff, and they don't realize that it's actually going on. So I think it would be interesting for you to share if you feel comfortable with that.
Sure. I have some people that are just crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. I have one person that for some reason they think I am the Antichrist and the devil, and they want to.
So just like a random person from the internet.
Yeah, it's just enough. I don't know what I mean. They got my phone number and they call me all the time. I mean, it's a pretty crazy situation, but I also have. I can probably never leave the country ever again. I'm listed online as a CIA agent, so and that's incorrect. But
so why would you not be able to leave the country because of that? I'm just curious.
I think the risk of me getting kidnapped or taken out overseas is very, very high.
So you're not prohibited to leave. You're just fearful to leave, or are you actually prohibited?
No. I am just fearful to leave. I'm not, and it just probably wouldn't be a good idea or a smart move.
For now.
For now.
Maybe like in 10, 15 years.
Maybe.
Did you realize that all this was going to happen when you applied for the job? Like, how did you even get the job as a compliance officer?
Yeah, I mean, at a business school. Again, I was rejected from the CIA, and then I was applying for jobs. I was applying for jobs like crazy.
Was it just totally random?
Well, there was an internet job posting for anti-money laundering officer. I applied for the job, and I flew up from Florida. I went to school in Florida, so I flew up from Florida to Newcastle, Delaware, interviewed for the job, and I interviewed with the counterintelligence agent, and I got hired. And just to make a side note, I think that counterintelligence FBI agent needs to go back to the academy because I got past his counterintelligence for over a year. So he didn't really do that good of a job.
Well, so you're looking through these files, you're finding these like weird wire filters, as you called them, and other things. What was the progression from there?
Yeah, so I had to take notes on everything because they had a very secured online system. So I basically sat in my cubicle and took notes all day, and I tried to gather as many internal emails as possible, which of course went to the FBI. And the CIA.
Were you? I'm sorry to cut you off. Were you in the corporate headquarters, or where were you doing all this research, or were you just doing it online? Like, what is the actual physical layout of the work that you were doing?
Sure. The main headquarters for anti-money laundering for HSBC is in Newcastle, Delaware. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's like this complete crap hole, and it really sucks. And yeah, it does not look like a bank. It's like it's a converted shopping mall. It's horrible. And now it's just filled with debt collectors approving transactions that, are eventually, killing our soldiers.
So basically, it's like a paper warehouse.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Just like paperwork, and you were just shifting through it. So it sounds like you were just kind of like doing an office job, but it was very important. Well,
and that's the thing is that
because you say CIA and it sounds like, you're running around with like guns blazing and stuff like that.
No, I mean, the thing is that management did not want these things found. They did not want, I was trying to be fired a couple of times over me, alerting management. I mean, you have to remember, I didn't just go to the CIA and the FBI first. I went to management first, and God knows I tried my hardest to get through to management, to do the right thing, and to report this stuff and document it. And they just didn't want a problem. They wanted it to go away. And
did they try to fire you on several occasions?
Yes. Yeah. I wrote an email, which I can send you, by the way, because I stole it from them, called compliance error. And in this compliance error email, I outlined how these debt collectors are approving money going to Hamas, and my concern was that Hamas is a terrorist organization, and what management's stance was that Hamas is not a terrorist organization, even though the State Department clearly states that Hamas is a terrorist organization. So this is what I was dealing with, and they threatened to fire me over that email.
It seems like you really were passionate about the cause, because I've actually worked in finance before, and I know there's a lot of red tape with compliance, and management in general. And it just seems like a lot of times people don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to get, ruffle feathers. I don't think that's the specific, to HSBC. I think it might be just something with financial institutions where they just don't, they have a very corporate mentality, and I think they just don't want to ruffle feathers. So it sounds like you were very passionate to just keep going and going and going against, what you're being told, because the management, that was your higher ups, right?
Yeah. But you have to understand my situation in that this was a national security issue. So when you're dealing with like a normal compliance or something like with stocks or something that's one thing. But what I was dealing with was the financing of terrorists, and I think that's what the American people don't understand about this banking scandal, that this is a banking scandal not about LIBOR or, just money, or this is about U.S. soldiers, us financing the people who are killing us. And what Eric Holder said was that, he didn't want to prosecute HSBC criminally because he feared another 9/11. And, what my argument is to that is that if we keep allowing this to happen, the next 9/11 is going to happen, and that's going to cause a financial crisis. So, overall, I had no choice in doing this because this was such a threat to national security, and it still is. Even not even looking at it from a terrorism standpoint, but from a drug standpoint, 500,000 Americans a year die, from drugs, and this bank is sponsoring and giving money to drug cartels, and you got DEA agents and people dying left and right. It doesn't make any sense that we're allowing that to go on from Newcastle, Delaware.
It doesn't, but it does sound like you have a level of passion, because you said that they were, what did you say? They fired debt collectors and rehired them as compliance officers. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah. So, there were other compliance officers as well, and you were the one that spoke up. So some people would have just said, oh, well, whatever, I don't care, I'm just going to get a paycheck.
Yeah. And that's unfortunately what the others did. And
which is why I'm saying, I don't think you realize that there's a level of courage and strength with you saying, hey, this is an important issue. And I think it's that background that you have, that you wanted to be a CIA officer. You wanted, to go into that field because, there were other officers that, like you're saying, and they didn't do anything.
Yeah. See, you know what it is my dad always told me when I was a kid, if you do something good or right, it's just what's expected, and that's, I feel like I just did what's expected, and God help the people that didn't do what's expected, because they're going to have, they're going to have to answer to a higher power later on, and they're responsible for some soldier getting his limb blown off by an IED in Afghanistan. And I just think the whole thing is just so disgusting. And it's still going on. It's still going on.
Has anyone been jailed to your knowledge, or has anyone been held responsible from that bank?
No, in fact, everyone benefited but me. What happened was my direct boss, the assistant director of compliance, he was fired, but then he was rehired to work as the head of TD Bank, which is reassuring. And the FBI counterintelligence agent, he was fired also, but he's now directing compliance for another Asian bank. And everyone else got promoted and bonuses, and it's.
You mean the people that were not speaking up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And me, I definitely, I lost, everything after this occurred. It was a disaster.
So what does that mean? You lost everything?
Job. I was not fired. I quit. But
were they putting pressure on you to quit, or was it just so frustrating for you to be there knowing that this was going on?
Yeah, they paid me $27,500 to leave. So they were trying to get rid of me. They started demoting me a couple of times, and it was not a good situation. It was a horrible situation, because it's like the way people normally judge themselves is based on, how their bosses perceive them, how peers perceive them, how family. And for me, it was very hard because like I knew I was doing the right thing, but everyone hated me. So it was like, those indicators are going off in my brain saying, Everett, you're doing the wrong thing. But
because most people want to be liked.
Right.
And everyone at your work was just hating you and wanting you to just go away, basically.
Yeah, it's very hard. And, but I lost everything. I mean, I literally, I applied for welfare. I was actually rejected, which is incredible considering I paid into the system for so long. But what ended up happening was that I had $20 in my bank account, and I had nothing left, literally. And I was not going to be able to make my rent payment. So I got in the car with the Rolling Stone magazine with my photo in it, and I went down to PF Chang's, and I showed the manager my photo in Rolling Stone, and I said, "Look, I did a job." And, he was kind of taken back, and he actually,
wonderful.
Yeah, he didn't really know what to do, but he did some research on it and called me the next day and said, "You know what, you did the right thing, and we'll give you a shot. It's like you probably won't be here in 6 months, but you know what, because you're beyond better things, but we'll give you a chance as a waiter." And it was with the PF Chang's. I started waiting tables, and that gave me the finances to pick myself up off the ground, and I invested pretty much all the money into my current company, which is Tactical Rabbit. And now Tactical Rabbit's a huge success. We're making over $15,000-$20,000 a month. It's crazy. So, I took a very negative thing and turned it into a very positive thing. But it was very hard, and there were some real depressing times.
So what do you do now at Tactical Rabbit?
At Tactical Rabbit, I take military-style intelligence gathering methodologies, and I apply it to everyday business and consumer protection. So it's anti-fraud. We do strategy reports. We do intelligence operations, all types of cool stuff. I basically created like a private type CIA. Basically, I've taken. Yeah.
So you got your dream after all.
Yeah.
And you're listed as a CIA.
Well, you know what it was? I realized that what I did at I was very good at what I did at HSBC, and I wanted to mimic that into my own company, and that's pretty much what I did. So, yeah, I mean, that's what we're doing, and it's great, but I literally ate peanut butter and jelly for 4 months and took every penny from waiting tables and put it into this company. I mean, I had no option. I mean, I had nothing. It was so. Now, actually, I will not go anywhere else to eat but PF Chang's, and I'm good friends with them. And yeah, I love those people. I go back there all the time, and
you're a stereotype, right? You're a Jewish guy that's going to the Chinese restaurant.
I love it. I mean, those. You know what it is that I had family and friends that wouldn't help me, and PF Chang's helped me. I mean, they gave me more shifts. They gave me. They understood my. It's incredible.
Podcast sponsored by PF Chang's.
Yeah. I mean, they went out of their way. But yeah.
So during this time, you're in the paper, all this stuff is coming out, you're fearing for your life, and you're telling me you had family members that would not reach out to help you, or that you reached out to that would not help.
Correct. I mean, my parents were wonderful, but yeah, overall, I mean, I have friends now that won't talk to me because it's a weird thing. So people.
Do you think that they're afraid that you're a troublemaker, or what do you think is the reason?
Well, I think, for instance, I had some people delete me off of LinkedIn because they said that these were people I did an internship with on Wall Street, and they said that I was turning into the guy on the end of the corner, and I was just looking like I was coming off as a nut, and they didn't want to be associated. And that was very hard to hear, but at the same time, I listened to it because, it's hard. It's like, where's that balance of saying, hey, look, here's something wrong, we have to stop it, and coming off as a nut. And it's very challenging, and I'm still trying to find that balance.
I think that's actually a very common thing because there's a lot of corruption going on right now on all levels of government. I don't know if you know I'm in Los Angeles, and they're actually trying city council members in a very small city in LA called the City of Bell. Have you heard the story?
No.
So these council members were stealing millions of dollars and putting it into their personal salary from the city. And this is a very small, very small bankrupt city around here, and a very poor city. It's mostly a minority, and they were just stealing money for themselves. So now they're being tried. And so I think that there's a lot of corruption on all levels of government and also in corporate America. And a lot of people are financially benefiting from this. And as you were saying, everyone who kind of turned a blind eye benefited financially. And so they don't want to shake things up. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes when you shake things up, it's easier to call you crazy or to disqualify you. Or I know a lot of people that are former military that have given a lot of testimony against the U.S. government for certain things that have gone on in government corruptions, and they're considered conspiracy theorists or crazy because they're going against the mainstream. They're going against the status quo, and people they like to be comfortable. They don't want things ruffled, Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I decided that it was after that conversation that I decided on what I'm really trying to do. It was great because it got me to focus. And I'm not campaigning now against HSBC. Believe me, I have a major issue with HSBC, and I will continue to fight them. But what I'm really fighting is the nothing. And I don't know if you ever saw the movie, the Never-Ending Story.
I have.
Yeah, it's a great movie. And where the nothing's spreading throughout Fantasia, and the Gomorrah is representing, and I'll never forget as a kid, there was a very interesting exchange in that movie towards the end with Gomorrah and Atreyu, and Atreyu was basically yelling out at the Gomorrah, why are you representing and fighting for the nothing? And the Gomorrah says because the people who have nothing are easy are easy to control, and the people who have the control have the power. And I was thinking about that, and that's kind of like American society is becoming into now, where it's being taken over by the nothing, where people just don't care anymore, and the only thing they care about is what's on America's Got Talent or Idol or this reality show, or nobody cares that a bank is financing terrorism, and so that's what I'm really combating now is not caring, or that nothing. And I think that's very dangerous what's occurring now, because if we don't start caring, let me tell you something, this country is in deep, deep trouble.
I actually think that you're not alone, Everett, because a lot of my guests that I interview, including myself and my friends, are kind of in the same boat where we have passion for these causes, but there's no main avenue for it. Like, I think the Occupy movement was trying to do something like that, and then it kind of got scattered. And I think that there's just this wave of energy of people like yourself that are really, really passionate about shifting the American psyche. And there's sort of like pockets here and there. Like there's, spiritual movements and there's political movements, but the way our system works, whether you're on the left or the right, I think most people can agree that things are kind of going to hell in a handbasket. And so I think that you're not alone. There's a lot of people. I've spoken to so many people who are just frustrated with the current system and frustrated with the people that are brainwashed. I think a lot of people in America are currently brainwashed to the point of not caring, like you said, just spacing out in front of reality TV and spacing out. And people want that feeling of community, and they want to make changes. And I think that's why kind of people were really excited. I'm not an Obama supporter, but I think during Obama's time, people were so passionate about Obama because they thought there was a chance for something different. And I just think that, you just got to keep going because a lot of people feel exactly the way you do. Yeah,
because, the thing is, I'm a conservative Republican, but I have to say, I loved Obama because you're right, he got people to care.
He got people hyped.
Yeah, and
they were excited.
Yeah, I absolutely respect that from the man. And I know there's a lot of Republicans who just will not like him at all. But I I thought the guy did a great job in getting people to care and involved, and we just need that. But I'm trying to figure out exactly how to channel the energy, because I know with HSBC, I don't think they're going to go to jail. I mean, what I did was my lawyers are filing for a new investigation. They already did file, and there already is a new investigation into HSBC. So we're hoping that these people will go to jail. But honestly, but I don't think it's going to happen, because, if I just don't think people care enough. That's my concern.
I think a lot of people don't know about it. I mean, I heard about it through our mutual friend Yoshi, who was telling me, I do read Rolling Stone, and I have read a lot of the publications that you've been in, but I just, I missed the story. And I think I was just talking to my husband about it this morning. The mainstream media is not covering these really, really important stories. This morning I turned on the TV and they were covering the Black Friday Walmart fights. So they're just covering this nonsense and kind of like feeding this machine of, like you said, America's Got Talent, kind of like the Kardashian bullshit drama. I don't want to hear about people fighting over, SpongeBob SquarePants t-shirts at Walmart today at 6 a.m. That's just silliness. That's not even real news. There's people out there that are dying in other countries who have to, hike miles and miles just to get clean water. There's, like you said, corrupt, financing going on of terrorist activity. And these stories are not being covered. And the mainstream media is just still, there will be like 10% actual news and 90% like nonsense news. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I did a 45-minute face-to-face in-studio interview with Brian Ross at ABC News. And he shook my hand right next to Barbara Walters' office and said, Everett, this is going to air within 2 weeks. And that was about a year ago, and it never aired. And
it never aired.
No.
They did. I thought you were going to say they cut it down to like a 5-minute piece, because usually that's what happens with the real news.
Yeah. No,
they just didn't air it.
They just didn't air it. And he told, I told Brian Ross, I don't know how you can look yourself in the mirror. And he said, Everett, I'm sorry, my hands are tied. And, I don't know what happened, what's the backstory, but, I think he owed it to the American people to air that interview. And, that was really horrible. But, why is the mainstream media not covering this? I mean, it's crazy. And why is this story not on the front page of the news? And, the New York Times should be all over this.
Have you had any pullback from your government contacts? Like, do you feel that the U.S. government is involved in this in some way?
It's I've been asked that a lot. I'm not a conspiracy theory person, and I pray to God that they're not involved in this. But I have to be honest with you that I am a little nervous, because, why, if the FBI has the evidence that I know they have, why are they not raiding the building? Why are they allowing it to go on? It doesn't make any sense.
If fighting terrorism is our number one priority, which has been stated many times in many public news conferences, that fighting terrorism is our number one priority, yet this bank is financing terrorism and the FBI knows about it and nothing's being done. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I expressed to the FBI actually about a month ago my dissatisfaction as to the way they're handling the case, which I know probably didn't do anything, but again, Eric Holder, who's the head of the Department of Justice, who controls the FBI, I mean, their main concern is giving these banks a get out of jail free card, and what the real concern here is that during the financial crisis, everyone was afraid of the banks, but it's actually gotten worse now, because now the banks know that they can do whatever they want and no one's going to jail. And that makes it really dangerous. And
there seems to be no system of checks and balances. And I think a lot of people are still frustrated with the bailouts of some of these big banks.
Yeah, taxpayer dollars are going to funding terrorism and drug cartels. I mean, this isn't just, this is not just HSBC. This is JP Morgan, Bank of America, Standard Chartered. I mean, these banks are being funded with our dollars.
Do you think that there's a possibility that there's other big banks out there that are also funding these illegal activities?
Yeah, absolutely.
That have not been called forth because of, there's no one like you in compliance?
The thing is that they've all been, Bank of America has admitted to dealing with drug cartels, and they get fined. It's all just a fine, and they know that now, which is a real problem because now they can do whatever they want.
So you're saying that there's been no jail time at all for any of these people, to your knowledge?
No, it's for a fact. Not now. What's amazing is that if you were to donate $1 to Hamas or Hezbollah or a drug cartel, you would go to jail for life. But these people can donate hundreds upon millions and billions, and nothing happens. In fact, they'll get into their BMW and go eat a lobster dinner. It's a really weird thing, and what's really crazy about it is that America was founded on equality, and that all men are created equal. And why is it that a banker is held to a different standard criminally than I am? It doesn't make any sense.
It does make sense, Everett, because they're donating huge amounts of money to politics.
I know. I know.
This is the reason why, Everett, because they are donating tons and tons and tons of money to keep people allowing this behavior to happen. That's exactly the answer.
I know. And the problem I have now is I'm trying to figure out how to stop it, because someone has to stop it and something has to be done, because, people are going to die. I mean, I know it's a dramatic statement, but it's true. People are going to die as a result of these people's actions.
Well, I think you're doing a great job. I think what you can do best, in my opinion, I mean, you didn't ask, but it's to just keep getting the word out, because a lot of people do not know about this. I did not know about this until our friend Yoshi told me about it. And I was like, who's this Everett Stern guy? And I started looking it up. And like I said, I'm, a Rolling Stone reader, and I never saw the story, just because you can't catch every, issue. And I was completely shocked that no stories have been played about this in the mainstream media. I did not hear anything about this until I was told by a friend. And this is a big deal, that a giant corporate bank is, taking part in criminal activity and not being punished at all, and also financing the death of our U.S. soldiers.
I know, it's crazy. And what's nuts is that for the deferred prosecution agreement, where they were fined the $1.9 billion, they literally admitted to funding the enemy and other, a litany of other charges that, treason, and it's crazy. And
was this this wasn't a trial? You said it was a what was it?
It's a deferred prosecution agreement.
Okay, so what is that?
So instead of going to trial, it's like a plea bargain, and they just they just pay a fine, and that's it. But again, if you were to plead guilty,
did they pay the fine?
Yes. Yeah, but if you which was 5 weeks profit for them, and actually their stock went up because people thought the fine was going to be worse. So they actually didn't lose any money. And what's crazy is that if you were to be found guilty of treason or funding the enemy, you'd be executed. So it's crazy.
So basically, if I want to commit any crime and never, ever go to jail, I need to start getting a job as a corporate bankster.
Yeah. It's a shame, but yes, it's really horrible.
Well, the crazy thing is you and I both actually know people that have been, I mentioned Yoshi a couple times, but he has been arrested for being a possible terrorist.
Really?
Did you not know this?
No, I did not.
Oh.
Yoshi's great. I didn't know. No, I didn't know.
No, he is on the Homeland Security list as a possible terrorist. You don't know this at all?
No.
I'm not gonna out him. He talks about it on podcasts all the time. But he was he flew on 9/11, and he grabbed a bag. He was in a rush, and he grabbed a bag that had a weapon in it. And he was arrested and in jail for, I think, 2 weeks. And he's on the terrorist watch list as a terrorist.
Oh, my God. I have to defriend Yoshi. No, I'm...
And he is one of the sweetest guys I know. And he is on the Homeland Security list. And he has the best excuse ever to never pick me up from the airport because he's always like, I can't go to the airport. I'm on the terrorist watch list. Everett, you got to know your friends better.
No, I know. I had no idea.
Yeah, so he's on the terrorist watch list as a terrorist, yet all these corporate banksters are actually supporting terrorism. They're real terrorists, and they're not getting any sort of... I mean, he was in jail for 2 weeks.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And he served more jail time than these guys.
Yeah, exactly. And these guys are actually funding the activity. Now, do you have any military background? Because I noticed that you mentioned a couple times that you're using military protocol, or that you... I don't know, it sounds like... Did you have military background?
No.
You don't have any?
No.
So how did you get interested in being in the CIA and like all this crazy like secret spy stuff?
I don't know. It was a weird thing. I applied as a financial analyst actually, and I don't know. I didn't think I was actually gonna get a response. This was back in 2004 or 5, and I didn't think I was actually gonna get a response out of anybody. And
you didn't think all this was gonna happen?
No, they actually called it, but it turned out that I met with them in a hotel, and I can't get details of it, but it turns out that I was better suited for the clandestine service, which is field operations, and then I just got caught up in a whole nother, avenue. So it was just a weird, but no. I just applied for like a financial analyst position, and I applied like to the FBI, and my dad works for the government. He's a VA doctor, so I've always been very patriotic and just really wanted to serve the country. So, but again, it was funny because I applied to the CIA, never expecting to get any type of callback or anything.
So it was just like a random thing, like because I was going to say, you never thought to go into like the military special ops or something like that.
Yeah, no, it was totally random. I mean, I'll never forget when they wanted me to meet them at a hotel. I was like, what? I was like, it's like I don't know. I thought maybe that they were trying to like kill me or something. I didn't know if it was really them or if it was a really weird. It was crazy. I mean, it's not something that happens every day, but I have tremendous respect for those guys, and they do a fantastic job, and I know a lot of people have an issue with them, have an issue with the CIA, but look, they do what they have to do, what they feel is in the best interest of protecting the country, and I respect that. And I just pray that they're able to, that my information was able to help them stop somebody from doing something. That's what I hope.
So what do your parents think about all this? I mean, are they just scared for you? Do they think you're crazy? Have they ever said, Everett, you just need to keep your mouth shut? Or are they like, like, hey, you're really doing something powerful and that you believe in?
At first they were very nervous with what I was doing because they didn't understand it, and I mean, no one knew I was passing information to the CIA, and they didn't know I went to the FBI. I mean, it all kind of hit them at once with the Reuters article. And I think they thought I was nuts for like a week there. And then when the Reuters article came out, then they were like, okay, Everett, this is crazy. And, it went from me being crazy to me being legitimate, but then the whole situation being crazy. And, and then actually when the Rolling Stone came out, and, they're very, they know I'm doing the right thing, but they are scared, for my safety, and but they understand what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to serve a higher purpose, and they understand it's a self-sacrificial thing. They know where I'm coming from with it, so they know they know I'm trying my best to do the right thing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's good that they're supportive of you, because this is something that sounds like you really need support.
Yeah.
If you were going at it completely alone, I don't know if you could handle it, or anyone.
Well, it was tough because they didn't want me leaving HSBC because my dad got diagnosed with cancer right when I was about to leave HSBC, and he had very serious operation, and he almost died. And it was, they didn't want me losing the income, so it was very tough, because like I was torn between, what do I do? Do I stay at HSBC and or go through hell and lose everything while I lose my safety net with my parent? It was very tough, very tough.
And thank God for PF Chang's.
Yes, thank God. Thank God. And my mom too. Like my mom and dad, like they gave me money even when they didn't have it. I mean, they brought themselves to the brink. Yeah, it was absolutely horrible. I mean, and then also I had 2 car accidents. I was in 2 hit and run car accidents.
Do you think those were on purpose? That's kind of scary. That is kind of scary, Everett.
I know. One of them still is
2 hit and runs. Yeah. That's a lot.
I know.
For your situation.
I know.
You don't think anyone was hired to try to hit and run you off?
I hope not. I know it was criminal investigations. I know one guy's going to end up going to jail. They ended up catching him. So, but I think it was just a weird coincidence. I don't know.
Are you sure? 2? What about the other one? That's like scary stuff.
And two cars got totaled out. It's crazy. I was really hurt. I got 6 herniated discs and everything, and I was in physical therapy for 6 months. And
the second guy, they haven't caught him.
No.
All right. Well, you need to wear your seatbelt, because with people after you, I think, and death threats, you need to be careful. That second hit and run may not have been an accident.
Yeah. It's a crazy. I don't know. It's certainly being looked into. I can tell you that, but.
I don't believe in coincidences when I'm whistleblowing on a giant corporate company, corporate bank that has ties to terrorists. I don't think coincidences exist in that realm. Be careful, Everett.
No, I know. See, what's weird is like, because I've been involved in this for so long now that I don't know. I'm just kind of used to it. Like, it's just kind of like the norm. Like, it's not other people, like, when they hear about what I did, they're like, "Oh, you gotta go out with a bulletproof vest and this and that." Like, they go, But for me, it's different, because I'm just used to it, So I don't really think much of the security aspect anymore.
Well, I wouldn't go out with a bulletproof vest, but just be careful. So, actually, back to the original story. So I just want to explain this for people who don't really know your story the way I kind of did some research on it. But so you were finding these wire transfer, what do you call, filters, right? And you started going to the CIA, and you didn't want to go to the FBI because you were afraid they were compromised, right?
Yeah, because the counterintelligence, a former FBI counterintelligence agent
worked for SBC,
yeah.
HSBC. Okay, so then what happened? So then you just kept feeding information, or what happened after that?
Yeah, so I just note taking. I mean, just every possible transaction. I tried to stop it at the bank level first. And then
you went to your manager. They said, shut up, stop trying to make waves, whatever.
Yeah, basically. And then I just would note take, and then pass that on to the CIA.
How long did this go on?
For about a year.
So a year of note taking. At that point, did you stop going to management, or did you keep trying repetitively to go to management?
No, I kept trying, because I wanted to try to stop things in the system. So like, it wasn't like I was trying to catch them, they were already caught red-handed, because the transactions were already going through or were already pending. So I still tried doing my job to the best that I could do it. But it was hard. I had to teach myself a lot with money laundering, because they didn't provide any training. And so what I did was I actually checked out books from University of Delaware Library, and I used to get up like at 4 o'clock in the morning and then read before I went to work. And I actually didn't return a lot of those books. I still owe University of Delaware Library some of the money, but I have to pay them back. But I just didn't. I taught myself how to do it, and I looked at it as a war. I mean, I was every day. It was like I was going in there fighting a little mini war, and
did you ever break down? You're going to work, everyone hates you, your management is not supporting you. Did you ever go to the bathroom and just break down?
No, but right when I left, like after my dad's surgery and everything, I was seriously considering killing myself. It was a very tough time because it like all kind of like hit me at once. It was like when you're in the moment, you're just going and going and going, and then at the very end, when I lost everything and like my dad I thought was gonna die, and like everyone was against me, and like there was no media, so there was no support. I mean, I'll never forget. I was sitting there, like lining up the pills, ready to. I mean, it was I was 2 seconds away from doing it.
So what stopped you?
I realized I had. Can I curse or no?
Yeah, you could say whatever the fuck you want.
No, I realized I had to take these motherfuckers down.
That's awesome. Oh, okay, so you are feeding information to the CIA. You're fired, right? You're still feeding information. I have a question. You said that, it's still being investigated, yet you also said there was that they paid the fine. They were fined. They basically admitted that they were doing this terrorist activity and they paid the fine. So I would assume that means it's over, but you said it's still being investigated. So what does that mean?
That's a great question. So the deferred prosecution agreement was for the transactions that they did up until 2010. So that deferred prosecution agreement does not count my evidence. And this is where HSBC is very nervous right now, because my evidence is post-2010, how they fixed the problem. And this is why they're in deep shit.
Okay. So you need to stay alive, and that evidence is obviously with your lawyers and in a safe place, right?
Yeah, the lawyers and safe deposit box, and also some family members, and
you have like multiple copies of everything hidden in different places, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And also, I was invited by the House Finance Committee chairwoman, Congresswoman Maxine Waters. She invited me down to Capitol Hill about a month ago, and then I went over all the evidence with her. And she wrote a letter to Eric Holder. And supposedly went to Eric Holder and said, "Why are you ignoring Everett Stern's evidence?" So Congress is now involved, and they're annoyed.
That's great. So you have support coming, more support.
Oh yeah, now I do. Yeah, absolutely.
When did it shift from being completely, you're just a one-man army to getting the support? Was it after the news media articles, or you were saying, was it even after that?
It was after, I would say, Rolling Stone was the turning point. Because then I got credibility, and people said, okay, this guy's legit, and it just gave me. That's when the lawyers signed on and took me on. I mean, full contingency. I mean, a whole whistleblowing law firm. And again, I'm not suing HSBC at all. They're just trying to create a new investigation. But I mean, but then what happened was the lawyers. I felt the government wasn't doing enough, and the lawyers just wanted to wait another 3 months. And I was unhappy with that. So I threatened them that I was going to release the documents to the press. And they were like, no, don't do that. But I went ahead and I released some of the documents to the press, and American Banker published them. And that's what the Congresswoman saw, was that article. And then that's what caused Congress to get involved. So my antics worked. I mean, so it's interesting. The lawyers, they just want me quiet. They don't want me doing anything right now. But I don't obviously listen.
And why is that?
They don't want me risking any reward money.
What does that mean, reward money?
So I'm eligible for whistleblowing reward money, which I guess they're estimating to be $500 to $600 million.
So they think that if you release it to the media that you'll compromise that? What? I'm not understanding.
Yeah. So they feel that if I keep giving speeches and keep reaching out to media, that could jeopardize that reward money. Now, what the lawyers don't understand, which I've explained to them numerous times, is that I don't care about the reward money. I didn't do what I did for reward money. I never considered myself a whistleblower. I did what I did because it was a national security issue. So my thing is I have to raise awareness because that's what's going to create change. So if I keep my mouth shut, yeah, that might get me $500 million. But
you don't care about the $500 million.
No.
You want people to know what is going on.
Right. Screw the money. I don't care. And the thing is, I make my own luck. I mean, I have my own company that I'll build it up slowly and surely, and I don't need a lottery ticket. I'm fine.
That's amazing. Well, I say keep going. Keep telling people. I'm glad you came on the podcast. We got to wrap up in about 5 minutes. Is there anything else you want the people of Out of the Box listeners to know about what's going on?
No, you can follow me at Stern Everett on Twitter, and definitely.
Do you have a blog or something where are speaking engagements or anything coming up where people can hear you or learn more information or any articles?
Yeah, we usually post on tacticalrabbit.com, and also I definitely post on Stern Everett at Twitter. And anyone who's supportive, definitely please follow and join events, protests, whatever. I'm trying to come up with new ideas. So.
Have you been doing protests?
I did, yes. I did a protest in front of HSBC on 452 Fifth Avenue on my birthday, actually.
That's awesome.
That's crazy. I did that with Occupy Wall Street. And again, even though Occupy is more left and I'm a conservative Republican, it was great because we found a common enemy, and the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Well,
I kind of was saying that earlier that, the Occupy movement was trying to do it and some other movements have tried to do it, and it kind of hasn't had I think whether people are left or right, a lot of people are frustrated right now with the system and the corruption that's going on in general in corporate America, with the lobbying, in government, in other areas. And so I know you said, you're trying to fight the nothingness. I think that there are organizations that are fighting it as well with you. And I think that we need to kind of ignore those political labels or those religious labels or whatever labels are on specific groups, because, you guys were protesting and you guys had a similar kind of message. And you're, like you said, you're right. They're on the left, but who cares, right?
Yeah, no. I mean, again, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So.
And I think in general, most people, if they feel passionate about something, and in this case, I can't think of anyone that would be, for an organization that is doing illegal and immoral activities and not being punished in any way, shape, or form. That's kind of silly. I think whatever your political affiliation, that is not cool.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely agreed.
Okay, Everett. Well, thank you for being a guest on Out of the Box. Guys, check out outoftheboxpodcast.com, and don't forget to click the donate button, and also subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher. I'm Rosie. This is Out of the Box.